I want to talk about how overconsumption kills creativity. This has been something that's been on my mind for a while, mainly because I realized that I was buying so many things that I did not need. And it got to the point where a package would show up at my door, and I was like, who bought this? And then I realized it was me 14 hours ago. And it slowly has become a habit that I don't personally like, and neither does my bank account. And a couple days ago, I had to stop and ask myself the question, why do I feel the urge to buy something the moment I want something? And when I really thought about it, I realized a lot of the things I was buying could have been solved with creativity. Like, for example, I wanted a pencil holder. I work from home, and all of my pencils are literally just in a drawer. And instead of buying one, I could have just washed out the glass candle container that literally has no candle left in it. But my brain didn't even offer that up as a solution because it went straight to Amazon. I was like, oh, I'll just Amazon a pencil holder for $5. And the same thing was happening with groceries. I am an ingredient household, okay? I love to cook. Which means I always have flour and butter and milk and sugar and yeast. And I get my meats delivered once a month, so I always have meat in the freezer, which literally means that I don't need to go grocery shopping unless I want some veggies. But instead of being like, let me look at what's already in my house, I was like, oh, I'm craving spaghetti and I don't want to make pasta, so I'm going to order pasta in red sauce. And oh, also I ran out of ground beef and I only have chicken, so I also have to buy ground beef. And then I was spending so much money on groceries, even though I literally had food in the house. Spending has become a lifestyle for me. Overconsumption has become a lifestyle for me. So I gave myself a 3-week challenge where I could not buy any groceries for 3 weeks. I had to use what was in my house, and if I needed a veggie, I was given $3 a day to go to the store and pick up a veggie. Because in this economy, that's how much a veggie is, which is kind of crazy. But anywho, it made me think creatively. When I ran out of rice and only had farro rice, I was like, okay, what am I going to make with this? Or if I wanted to make an orzo dish, but I didn't have any spinach and I only had arugula, I was like, okay, we're going to use arugula. Like, I was literally being chopped on Food Network, if you've ever seen that. Pretty proud of myself. But I was fully fed for 3 weeks because I was creative. And I suddenly thought to myself, if I'm always over-consuming capitalistically, meaning I'm buying stuff all the time because it's so easy to buy things at the click of a button nowadays. It can literally show up the same day. I could wake up wanting a stuffed elephant, and then I can have that elephant by 9 p.m. that day. It's crazy. And if I am constantly over-consuming, then when do I have time to think creatively? When do I give my brain time to come up with a solution that might be really cool? And so I want to kind of dive into what is happening in the brain when we're over-consuming, not just capitalistically, like in the economy and buying things, but when we're over-consuming life. I know that sounds weird because you should live, obviously, and living fuels your creativity. But when you are constantly with people, when you're constantly surrounded by noise, when you're constantly taking in new experiences and taking in more, when you're constantly filling your life with more things, when are you letting yourself actually use the life experiences and the things to then fuel your creativity? Does that make sense? I studied it. I looked up the brain part of it, and we're going to talk about that today. So, without further ado, welcome back to the Suffering Forward podcast. My name is Brianna Kaleen, and I am your host, and I am super excited about this episode, so let's dive in. So if we're talking about the brain and patterns and all the things, then we definitely have to mention dopamine. I have talked about this before on the podcast. It's a very important chemical, especially in today's day and age. It is the anticipation and reward chemical. I think a lot of the times we just refer to it as the reward chemical. But the crazy thing is that it is an anticipation chemical. So for example, if I'm trying to buy something, the dopamine spike happens before I ever get the item, before I get the reward. It happens when I add something to my cart. It happens when I click to buy. It happens when I get the shopping email, when you get the tracking email. All of those things are dopamine spikes. The package arriving is just like a season finale. Research shows that anticipation can release more dopamine than the reward itself, which explains why sometimes the item arrives and you're like, oh, cute. And then you immediately go back to Amazon. Your brain slowly learns that when you want something, you get to purchase it, and that's the instant reward. Whereas with creativity says you have a problem, you think through it, you struggle a little bit, you might fail, you have to try again, eventually you succeed, and then you get dopamine. Your brain kind of says respectfully, I'd like the faster option because I like this dopamine stuff. And without realizing it, we start training our brains to skip imagination. And this leads directly into the next part of the puzzle, because once buying becomes the default solution, something really important disappears, which is constraint. Creativity loves limitations. In one famous study, people who were given fewer resources to complete a task produced more creative solutions than people given unlimited resources, because limitations force the brain to ask one magical question: what else could this be? When everything is instantly available, we stop asking that important question. We stop improvising, we stop repurposing, we stop experimenting. And convenience is incredible, don't get me wrong. Today's day and age, we have access to so many things. Information comes to us so much faster. We get packages so much faster. I don't have to leave my house. Somebody can bring me my food at the click of a button, which means I can work on other things that are important to me, or I can make sure that my house is clean instead of having to go out and get groceries. I mean, convenience is amazing. I'm not knocking it. I love convenience. I get my groceries delivered every week. But I will say, convenience quietly removes the need for resourcefulness, and resourcefulness is like the gym where creativity works out. And I think this connects to something even bigger that we've lost, because it's not just stuff we're over-consuming, it's constant stimulation. And this can come from so many different distractions. I mean, life in itself is a distraction, in my opinion. Like, I would love to focus on getting work done, but I need to do laundry, I need to cook, I need to grocery shop, I need to check in with my mom, I need to make sure my people are okay, I need to make sure. Then you add in social media, right? I'm constantly scrolling, I'm constantly being stimulated, I'm constantly comparing myself to other people, I'm constantly looking, I'm constantly being fed information, the news is always coming at me, something is happening in the other side of the world that's insane, and all of this stuff is happening, and I'm constantly stimulated. Your brain never really has a break, and that is not a good thing. Brains are meant to have rest. And I talked about this a while back, but boredom is such a great thing for creativity. And this part of the science that I looked up kind of plays a part into that. Your brain has a network literally designed for creativity. It turns on when you're bored, when you're daydreaming, or doing nothing. And modern life, as I just said, does not really allow for boredom, daydreaming, or doing nothing. The average person checks their phone over 90 times a day. 90 per day. This means we rarely experience true boredom anymore. Waiting in line, we're on the phone. In the elevator, we're on the phone. If we're cooking, we have a podcast in the background. If we're walking, we have music playing. If we're in the bathroom, we're also on our phones. We have literally removed empty space from our lives. But in the process, we have also removed the perfect spot for creativity to thrive. Creativity needs empty space the way plants need sunlight. Studies show people are significantly more creative after periods of boredom compared to periods of constant stimulation. Boredom isn't a problem, it's a creative warm-up. We keep thinking we need more inspiration, but we actually need more silence. And this leads into a realization that hit me really hard, because it's not just stuff and our phones, it's how we live our literal lives. We're told creativity comes from experiences, to travel more, to do more, to see more, to say yes to everything. And yes, those experiences are the raw ingredients for creativity. But creativity actually comes from processing experiences. The creative cycle is input, incubation, insight, and output. Broken down a little bit more, that means I gather information, my subconscious processes it, I get the aha moment, and then I execute that thought. That is the creative process. It is a non-linear process that enables breakthrough by allowing ideas to marinate, often yielding results when the mind is relaxed. Okay, that's what creativity does. However, Modern life is just input, 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 and then we finally like collapse and we're burned out and we just like doom scroll forever and input more, right? The average American consumes the equivalent of 34 gigabytes of information per day. That's the brain trying to digest the Library of Congress daily. We never stop long enough for experience to actually turn into ideas. Imagine eating nonstop all day and wondering why your stomach hurts. That's what we're doing to our minds. We're not giving ourselves time to actually process what we're consuming. And so in the process, our overconsumption is killing our creativity because we never have time to let our thoughts marinate to come up with something creative. We talk about ways that overconsumption is slowly draining us, slowly draining our planets, but I also think it's really important to notice that it's slowly draining our creativity. Overconsumption doesn't just change how we think, it changes who we are. Buying something can feel like becoming someone. In a really weird way, we have made it to where capitalism equals aesthetic, which equals who I am, right? So buying art supplies feels artistic. Buying workout clothes that are aesthetic make me feel as though I am a gym goer and I am a hot girl on a walk. Therefore, I am of importance, or I am doing something important or doing something productive. I buy a planner that's all pretty and I feel organized, therefore I am an organized person. I buy a cookbook so that I can cook and I feel like a chef. Research shows that shopping activates the same reward pathways as achieving goals. So we get the emotional reward of progress without the effect. And a lot of us equate our identity to our productiveness and our progress. So if your productiveness is based in capitalism and overconsumption, then your identity is overconsumption and buying and having more. And I say this with love because I have absolutely done this and I am honestly trying to break this habit. And I've done it repeatedly and I've done it like very happily. And this is why my little grocery experiment felt impactful and kind of made me want to write and research this, because I did not want my identity and my personality to be in what I consumed. I wanted it to be in what I created and who I am as a person, and not just what capitalism or the world or culture is telling me to be like. I wanted to be who I was without that impact. And so I slowly started researching this, and my goal is to create more than I consume. During my no grocery challenge, friction came back. Puzzles came back. Problems came back. My brain was starting to light up. I realized that my creativity didn't disappear. And it was a really cool process to kind of discover that through something that isn't even my main artistic medium. Like cooking is not what I would consider my artistic output, but it was so fun to be creative in a way that felt freeing, even though I gave myself constraints. And I think I want to do that in more areas of my life so that my creativity can blossom in different ways and that I can create more than I consume, hopefully. Overconsumption isn't just about clutter or money. It is about outsourcing imagination. When everything can be bought instantly, we stop asking the question that starts every creative act. What can I make with what I already have? Maybe creativity isn't something we need to add to our lives. Maybe it's something waiting underneath everything we keep adding. Some of the greatest artists came from nothing. They came from neighborhoods that did not have art programs. They came from families who were not artists and could not show them the way. But they created within the limits that they were given, and they were able to make incredible things because their imagination was running wild within the confines of what was around them. And I think sometimes our art can be less impactful or less creative, less new. We're trying to be carbon copies of what we already see and what we consume and what we compare ourselves to, that sometimes we are missing our internal creativity and imagination and what makes us special as artists. And I think one of the ways we can get back to ourselves and our identity as humans and as artists and as creatives is to create more than we consume. There are a couple of ways that we can try to create more than we consume. Some of the things that I am trying to do, which I don't know if I'm going to do these very well, but I'm trying to limit my social media scrolling. There's a really cool app called ScreenZen, which I've been using for some time, but it is better than the regular iPhone blocking because, you can just press 15 minutes more and keep doing that to the day you die. ScreenZen gives you a passcode that you can give to somebody else, and they can make up the passcode so you can never actually go in and be like, ignore. I really love it. Highly suggest it. I've been doing it for years now. It's great. Definitely going to put that back in because I did delete the app, which was crazy. I'm also going to try to limit my Netflix and movie consumption, which is kind of hard. It feels like how I relax, but it's not actually relaxing to the brain because it is stimulating still, even if it's like background noise. I'm trying to get rid of background noise as much as I can. So less music in the background, less podcasts, less TV. And I also am cutting spending back a ton and asking myself, how can I have fun without spending money today? How can I make sure that I'm creating instead of just consuming? Do I really need that? Can I repurpose something around my house to be that? I'm trying to think through these things and give myself a 2-week span before I buy something. For example, like I mentioned earlier, that pencil holder, I would have waited, if I was doing my rules that I have now, waited 2 weeks and been in those 2 weeks trying to find a way to use what I already have to be my pencil holder or to find another solution. Maybe I just need one pencil. I don't know. It would have been something so that when I got to the end of the 2 weeks, if I still had found no way to hold my pencils that I loved, then I could buy a pencil holder. So, those are a couple ways I'm trying. We'll see how it goes. I don't know how it's going to go. But if you'd like to join me, I'm sure it will be fulfilling in some cool ways. As I have said before, Suffering for Art is looking for a team. So if you are a video editor, a podcast editor, if you're a social media manager, if you do anything creative that you want to partner with me on, hit me up. But I'm so happy to learn with you. I'm so happy to grow with you. And I will see you on the next episode of Suffering for Art.